Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Dugout Talk. You're here with Cameron Lingle and
Stephen Gossman.
yes, sir. All right, Steven has a very special day in history today for baseball. Go ahead and let us know what you got, Steven.
Yeah, so today is February 1st, which is the first day of Black History Month.
Mm-hmm.
And today in 1973, so 48 years ago today, Monty Irvin was elected to the Hall of Fame by the Special Committee on the Negro Leagues. Irvin becomes the fourth player to gain election through the committee, joining Satchel Paige, Josh Gibson, and Buck Leonard. Irvin won two batting crowns for the New York Eagles before joining the New York Giants.
Hmm. Monte Irvin, Hall of Fame member today, 48 years ago. It's really cool. But unfortunately, we have some more, I won't say somber news. I will say maybe annoying. Um, MLB's latest attempt to kind of, I don't know, short the Players Association, it feels like. I don't know if that's exactly the proper word to use, but they gave a proposal to the MLB Players Association, um, essentially just proposing that the season get delayed and we push it back to, I believe, 152 game season,
154.
154 game season. Sorry. Uh, in exchange, the MLB was asking for the universal DH, which I believe the players' union is for that, but the players' union is definitely not for the other big thing added by MLB, which was expanded playoffs. Um, I don't know what it is that's got MLBPA firmly against expanded playoffs. I mean, you'd think that the playoffs being expanded, more teams would get in, aka more players would get in. Um, Players could have that on their resume. I don't think it would like whitewash making the postseason too much, but I guess they like it where it is, and MLBPA has. I don't think they're going to even try to counter it. I think they just wholeheartedly dislike that proposal MLB sent their way. And as far as we're concerned, as of right now, this morning, at about 11 a.m., we are still set to play a 162 game season. You read a little more into this than I did, Steven. So why don't you go ahead and give us your opinion on the matter?
Yeah, so what I've been reading is because the Cactus League last week sent in a letter proposing a delayed start to spring training, which Major League Baseball can either accept the request or they can deny the request. And it makes sense considering Arizona's been a hotbed for COVID. Um, so that was kind of where all this started. Now, yesterday, the Office of Major League Baseball put up a proposal to the players union saying let's delay the season by 1 month. So currently opening day is scheduled for March 31st. The new opening day would be scheduled for April 28th. 154 games would be played between then and October
Mm-hmm.
10th, which means there would be scheduled double headers in there as well. And part of the proposal with the 154 game season is a universal DH, expanded playoffs to 14 teams instead of 16 teams like last year. And there's one other thing, and I'm blanking on it. Oh, the 7 inning doubleheader rule. So
Mm-hmm.
on doubleheader days, kind of like what they did last year, both games will only go 7 innings. So that's what the proposals are stating. Now, I think one with the universal DH, I think the union is on board with that, but they do not want expanded playoffs. And I can understand where they're coming from with this because we saw this last year with 8 teams in the playoffs. There were teams with losing records that made it. Example, Houston Astros were 1 game away from a World Series with a 29-31 record.
Yeah.
The Astros had no business being in the playoffs last year, yet they almost got to the World Series. And I think the players union saw this, and there really is no reason for a team with a losing record to be in the playoffs. And I will just get it out there because I know I've probably gone on record and said this. At one time, I was on board with an expanded playoffs where 8 teams in both leagues would be in. After seeing this last year, I'm totally against it, and I don't even like the 7-team playoff format that they have because this would give the team with the best record a first round bye essentially. Um, so they don't really have a good proposal for this either, and I understand why the union is really pushing against expanded playoffs, even if it means we don't have a universal DH. Um, so I think, at least my opinion on this, is the union is pretty set in stone on a 162 game season, and they're not even going to counter at this point with another proposal. It sounds like today they're going to turn down MLB's offer, and it's either 162 games or we may not have the season might be delayed by a strike. And I hate to say that, but there's been a storm brewing for the last few years between the union and the ML and the Office of Major League Baseball, and it's pretty inevitable at this point. The players' CBA expires at the end of this season, um, so we've kind of been feeling like there is a lockout on the way, but the lockout could happen a lot sooner, and this might be the final straw. Where if the players' union does turn down the proposal today, I don't know how much authority Major League Baseball has to
Yeah.
say that they can overrule what the union says, but I imagine if they do overrule it, it's not going to be pretty, and we may not even get baseball this year if that's the case.
Yeah, if they do something like overrule the entire MLB Players Association, yeah, I don't see a single player stepping foot on that field. Um, what I did see yesterday though was, I guess, MLB tried to offer full salaries for players. So despite the fact that there was only going to be a 154 game season, MLB still proposed to pay full salaries, full 162 game salaries to players. But I mean, that's what you're missing 8 games. I don't, for a lot of guys, 8 games probably isn't gonna, make or break their wallet, especially with how much players are getting paid these days. Uh, I don't see, I just don't see where MLB's coming from. Like yeah, there were a few hiccups last season. But we were still very new. MLB was one of the, you know, MLB was, I believe, the second big sport here in America after basketball. I know basketball got going again, was early July, something like that. Um, Early July, early August. But I know baseball and basketball were kind of the first, and baseball was really um, the first regular season sport here in America of, like the big three, big four that tried to play its regular season out. So they were kind of the guinea pig. There were a few issues. I know teams like the Cardinals, teams like the Marlins, they got hit super duper hard, and missed. I think the Cardinals ended up missing almost 2 weeks worth of action. But I think we I think baseball's in a much better place. I think they've got much better tactics to handle um, this pandemic, and I believe that Major League Baseball is capable of getting a 162 game season, and even if we have to incorporate more days off, even if we have to incorporate more scheduled double headers, 7 inning double headers, I'm all for 7 inning double headers. When the idea first came out, I was like, come on, a baseball game is 9 innings. Like, just play it to 9 innings. That's 2 extra innings a game, 4 extra innings total for the day. But after having watched a couple of double headers, double headers can really screw a team over, pitching wise. And in a normal season, that's fine. You're gonna get screwed over in a couple double headers throughout the season. But in a COVID struck season, I think it's really important to protect players at all costs, and I think the best way of doing that would be having those two less innings per game. You have to There's less guys that you have to send down. I know teams usually send players down if they get used a lot. Maybe they're a fringe major league bullpen arm, so they pitch 2 or 3 innings that day, and then they get sent down to bring up another guy. In this circumstance, maybe they only pitch 1 or 2 innings. You don't have to send them down. You don't have to bring someone up. There's less travel, less potential to contract or spread the disease. So yeah, I think that 7 inning doubleheaders are a good thing. Um, I think that I don't know what to think about MLB's like what do you think MLB's main motive is here as far as delaying the season?
Oh, we kind of talked about it last week. I still think they're trying to use COVID more as a, oh, it's not safe kind of thing, even though we saw this last year. The Cardinals and Marlins only got struck with COVID because their players were being idiotic about
Mm-hmm.
the whole thing. And had they actually followed protocol, I don't think the breakouts would have been nearly as severe as they were, where they had to miss a week of playing time.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that if players are following protocol and doing the best they can to stay safe and keep others around them safe, they can get a season in. Like that's clear as day. We know it can happen. And if I sound kind of mad about this, I am, because there's just this circus going around, and one side wants one thing, another side wants one thing, and no one is really trying to do anything to resolve anything. The office of Major League Baseball knows what the players union wants. They know what they want. They're just being stubborn and don't want to give it to them. And it's getting really irritating watching this as it goes on, because it's like Major League Baseball and Rob Manfred just do not care. It
Yeah.
feels like now they only have their interests in mind, and
Mm-hmm.
they're basically telling players either get on the same ship or jump,
Yeah.
which is why I say there's going to be a strike if this doesn't get resolved. And I hate to say it, but in some ways, if it means Manfred gets out of the commissioner's role, I'd
Yeah.
almost be for it. I don't want to see it, but I feel like that's the only way we're not going to have Manfred as the commissioner of baseball anymore. Um, but I don't know. I don't know what the league is trying to do here. It just feels like they're abusing their power, and they're really trying to force something down the players' throats that they know players don't want. Um, and I think this is a time where we do need some players to come out and call out the league office. And I'm being completely serious when I say this. We need guys like Mike Trout, Ryan Braun, Nolan Arenado, Bryce Harper. We need guys to come out and call the league out on this, because this is completely absurd. This is getting ridiculous to this point that we're still in this circus battle trying to figure out what's going to happen with the 2021 season. A season can take place. We saw it last year. They got through 60 games plus expanded playoffs. I think the league even went 60 days in a row or something like that without
Mm-hmm.
having to cancel games
Single
because of
one.
COVID
Yeah.
concerns or something like that. And I know in the postseason bubble, Justin Turner, he tested positive for COVID, but he was the
Yeah.
only guy who tested positive. How he got it, I don't know. But we saw it last year. Teams, if they're being smart and they're actually following protocol, can
Mm-hmm.
make something happen. We can have a season. You can't be stupid and jeopardize the safety of everyone around you by going out to nightclubs or going out to packed restaurants, whatever. It's ridiculous. It's dumb. I'm tired of it. Um, they just they need to pull their heads out of their butts is essentially what I'm saying here. They need to
Yeah.
work together and figure something out.
Yeah. It like I feel like the proposals and the offices of Major League Baseball are kind of playing that game where they give proposals to the Players Association they know are unacceptable, and then when MLBPA declines them, they're like, "See, look, he won't negotiate with me at all. Like, how am I the bad guy here?" And then all of the all of the information from that proposal comes out, and everyone's like, "Oh, well, no wonder." Um, I think MLB is just gonna they're gonna keep offering these one-sided deals until they are at a point where they're like, no, that's it. We're not getting a season in under these conditions, and then they just cancel the whole thing. I have a bad feeling that it's going to come to that, and maybe it needs to. I know strikes are really bad for the sport. I know when the two biggest entities of the sport can't come together, it's usually means bad things are coming. But I mean, the other side of that will usually mean that, they find even ground. They start actually working together. I think that a strike may be necessary. I know that prior to the COVID-19 outbreak, um, I mean, these two sides have been, at ends for years. It seems like years and years. That they're constantly at each other's throats, constantly trying to one up the other, or sneak something by them, take advantage, work around. So maybe we need something that kind of sets both of them back, and shows them the bigger picture so they can realize what they're messing with.
I want to just say one last thing. Baseball can't afford a strike. They can't. Major League Soccer is about to overtake Major League Baseball as far as popularity goes. And if a strike hits Major League Baseball, they are screwed. That's just simple as that. And especially with them trying to expand the league to 32 teams, the league can't afford it. And if Rob Manfred loves baseball like he claims to love it, he needs to get on this and work with the players union and or the players association and get something figured out.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
That's all I'm going to say though. This is just it's aggravating.
Yeah, it's aggravating. It's tiring. Um, so let's jump into some more happy news. Let's get out of that. Let's talk about how the Washington Nationals have fared over their past season, and how they expect to look over their next season. They made a couple big moves this offseason. They brought in a couple guys, a great first baseman in Josh Bell. They brought in John Lester. So they've made a couple good moves. They figure to potentially make another pitching move. Oh, they brought in Brad Hand as well. I didn't want to skip over him. So they've landed a couple good guys, whether it be via trade or via free agency. Their prospect list looks good. They've got a good deep prospect ranking system, and we'll just kind of jump right into it. They finished 26-34 last season, and that was as the defending world champions, as you all know. 93-69 record netted them just enough to get into the 2019 postseason, where they essentially just dominated their way to their very first World Series title ever, which is something a team usually shouldn't do after you let your generational talent, the guy that you've hyped up since the day you drafted him, heralded as like essentially the best player in your franchise history, Bryce Harper. You just let him walk in free agency. He left, and then you go out and win the World Series the next year without really or accurately replacing him. They just kind of went out and won the World Series. So perhaps props to them for that. But it kind of took a step back this past season. A lot of teams took step backs last season. Um, I don't think they're a team that's going to finish under 500. I think they'll definitely be in a lot of the postseason race, especially if they can get a lot from John Lester. Um, I think they'll be in a great position to succeed. What do you think of how their season last year went, and how their off season has gone so far?
Um, so last year, I think they would have been a better team in a full season. Um, they still had a solid team on paper last year. They didn't really lose a lot of guys from that World Series team, so um, I don't think their season was legit last year. This year, I think just with the way the NL East has been playing out, Washington is going to need a lot of things to go in their favor if they're going to compete, because the Braves are still the team to beat in the East. The Mets have been making noise all off season, and on paper, they look like they should win the division. The Phillies are starting to come through with some big signings, and they're becoming a more legitimate threat. The Marlins, I don't think the Marlins they're gonna have to worry about the Marlins too much. But Washington's been doing stuff of their own too, and they're trying to stay as relevant as possible. Um, but I think when push comes to shove, they are a team that of anyone in the NL East, if they are going to compete, they need everything to go right for them, and
Yeah.
they need everything to go wrong for everybody else. This team does not look bad though overall. I think they've got a good starting rotation. They got three really good starters, a
Yeah.
really solid fourth starter, and they've got several guys who can fill that number 5 spot in the rotation. Their offense looks pretty good. They just brought back Mr. National himself, Ryan
Yep.
Zimmerman. I don't know how much of a factor he's going to play this season, but he'll at least be a bench player, if anything, who
Hmm.
can get some starts. They also, one guy you didn't mention, Kyle Schwarber.
Yes, that's
They
right.
brought him over on a cheap 1 year contract. So I mean, they have they have a solid team. They've got a pretty good bench overall. They've got some prospects who figure to be playing parts this year. Carter Kaiboom, for example, this is kind of his break year, where people think he's going to be the guy who takes over third base.
Hmm.
Andrew Stevenson's another guy to keep an eye out on
Yep.
in the outfield. I mean, they, I would say, kind of looking in, this team does have a lot of potential, but again, they need everything to go right for them. And I guess I'll just kind of jump into what my lineup projection
Yeah, go
looks
for it.
like for the team this year. So, as far as opening day goes, Trey Turner, I've got leading off at shortstop. Juan Soto in right field batting second. I've got Josh Bell on the 3 hole batting at first base. I've got Kyle Schwarber hitting cleanup in left field. As of right now, I'm putting Starlin Castro in at third base as the opening day third baseman, because I think Kai Boom may need a little more time to develop, but it's going to also depend on how his spring training goes.
Hmm.
I've got him at third base. Jan Gomes, I've got him at catcher batting sixth. The rookie Luis Garcia, I've got him
Hmm.
being the opening day second baseman, batting seventh. Victor Robles in center field batting eighth, and then the pitcher, whoever the opening day pitcher is, which I would
Hmm.
assume is Max Scherzer, will be batting ninth. That's assuming we don't get the universal DH, because that's still not set in stone yet.
Yeah.
With the universal DH, Ryan Zimmerman to me is the guy, and I've
Yeah.
got him in between Schwarber and Castro.
Okay. Yeah, I have essentially the exact same thing, except I do have Carter Kaiboom taking the third base job, and Starlin Castro playing second base, with Luis Garcia coming off the bench, with an opportunity to spell Castro here and there, and the opportunity to spell Turner here and there. Um, I've I was really high on Luis Garcia this past season. Um, he's got a lot of comps to another national, one Juan Soto. I think that their batting stances look alike. Their build is kind of a look alike. I really have. I know he's not. He's never. I looked at his minor league stats. He had never really been superb in the minor leagues. Just to say, like, he didn't hit a bunch of home runs or steal a bunch of bases. Um, or hit like 350, 360 over the course of a season, but I don't know. It's just something about how he carried himself last season in some of the national games that I had watched. That he just looks like he's kind of got that it factor, and I would look for that to maybe play a part. And I mean, and there's a good chance that if the Nationals find themselves in third or fourth place come uh, mid July, that Starlin Castro could become a trade piece, and Luis Garcia could jump right in there at second base and take over everyday duties. I think a possibility. I won't say a real possibility, but it's definitely a possibility. But yeah, I'll go over my lineup. I've got Trey Turner at shortstop leading off. I've got Juan Soto playing right field, hitting second. Hitting third, I have the first baseman Josh Bell. I've got Schwarber cleaning up in left field. I've got Starlin Castro at second base, hitting fifth. Hitting sixth, I have Yan Gomes, the catcher. Hitting seventh is Victor Robles out there in center field. And then I have Carter Kaiboom playing third base. And then, pitcher. I think that if they do have a DH, it'll most likely be Ryan Zimmerman. I do think that Josh Harrison maybe figures to see a couple DH slots as well. But yeah, my lineup's almost identical to yours, save for two guys.
Yeah, the Nationals actually could have, they have three potential second basemen on their
Mm-hmm.
roster right now with Garcia, Castro, and Harrison. And
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you on the Castro note. I think he is going to be trade bait as the season goes on. Because it's not like Starlin's a bad player by any means,
No.
but he's definitely not seen as like an everyday starter anymore.
Yeah.
So I think Castro will be more of a trade piece later down the line, and I could easily see him being the second baseman to start, and Luis Garcia, even if he starts the year in the minor leagues, I don't imagine
Mm-hmm.
he's going to be there very long.
Yeah.
Garcia just seems like a really confident player. For being a 20-year-old, he'll be 21 in May. He
Yeah.
seems like a really confident player because I watched him a little bit last year too, and it just felt like he wasn't really phased when he
Exactly.
when he got time to play last year, which you don't see that a lot in young players like Garcia. Um, and you're absolutely right because him and Juan Soto, Juan Soto's I believe going to be 22 later
Yeah.
this year. They got some good young talent on that team who are capable of leading this team offensively. And I see Garcia as the future second baseman, whether it's right out of the gate on opening day or whether he gets that job later on in the
Mm-hmm.
season. But the Nationals are pretty set on that infield with Castro and Harrison, and as well as when Kai Boom and Garcia take the time to develop and get um, just get some starts here and there and then get more
Yeah.
starts as the year goes on. So I like what they're doing here as far as that goes.
Yeah, and I love the acquisitions of Josh Bell and Kyle Schwarber. I know they kind of toyed with the idea of Eric Thames. I believe it was last season, and obviously it didn't work out. Um, in a full season, maybe it works out a little more. I know Eric Thames is a former 30 home run hitter, a legendary name in Korea, I believe. I believe he played in Korea.
Yeah, and
Uh,
Thames actually just went back to Japan.
oh, did he?
He
Okay.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Schwarber's a younger. I think he's a more powerful Eric Thames. Um, he's a better fielder than Eric Thames. He can play the outfield. He's still got some work to do. I know Schwarber still has, like I said, some work to do on his outfield game. But kind of like what I had said last week about Giancarlo Stanton, he's not as bad in the outfield as people make him out to be. People make him out to be this, god awful, horrid, don't even try to put him out there type of guy. But I think he's serviceable. He's not gonna make Mookie Betts type of plays, but at the same time, it's not like he's gonna go to catch a ball and it's just gonna bounce off his forearm and hit the ground. He's still gonna make some. He's gonna make some plays. He's gonna make some throws. He's gonna miss some plays, but I like Schwarber. I think Josh Bell is a prime suspect to break out in a big way. I mean, we saw what he did in 2019, 2020. He had kind of a setback, but it's a short season. I think that Josh Bell may not only break out, but he may end up being the second best hitter on this team behind Soto when all is said and done, and he may end up being the team leader in home runs. I don't know that Kyle Schwarber is going to be the uh, day in and day out everyday starter. I'm sure they have some guys that they'll probably get up to kind of spell him every now and then. So I see Josh Bell as probably leading this team in home runs and probably third maybe in batting average, probably second or first in RBIs. a lot of those traditional stats, I see him being at or near the top of for this Nationals offense, which is something they haven't had since Bryce Harper. So I know Juan Soto's done a great job, but they haven't had that good, they haven't had a good 1-2 punch in a while. So I look for Josh Bell to be a huge piece for this Nationals offense. And yeah, I think they've got some good depth, and I think they have some good starters at a lot of positions, and I'm looking forward to see what that offense can do. So jumping over to their bullpen and their rotation, um, the rotation figures to be pretty straightforward. You got Mad Max Scherzer as the ace. No one's going to take that job. You would have to pry it from his cold dead hands. Like, he may not have an arm. I think that's the only way. Like, you take both of his arms off. I think you still might not keep Mad Max from trying to go out there and get 8 innings. So I got him. I have Corbin as the number two, Strasburg as the number three. You could flip flop those guys either way. I know some people probably prefer Strasburg as the two. I've got John Lester at number four, big lefty veteran. He's played a whole bunch of years with the Cubs, won a World Series with them. Before that, played some time in Oakland, played a whole bunch of years in Boston. He's going to be one of the better all time active players that you can find out there. And then for the number five slot, I've got Joe Ross. I think that's definitely up for grabs. I don't think Joe Ross has that nailed down. I know that most of the Nationals' top 10 prospects are pitchers. Um, and I'm sure most of those guys are more than capable to pitch in the major leagues at some point soon. So it's very possible that Joe Ross loses that job, um, unless he kind of finds what he had a few years ago, some of that talent that he bring back up, and maybe he keeps it. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's kind of how my rotation is set up. I don't know how yours differs there.
It's pretty much similar. Max Scherzer is going to be the ace. I like Patrick Corbin as the number two, kind of go
Hmm.
the righty lefty
Yep.
alternate. Steven Strasburg as the three, John Lester as the four, and I think the five. I think the five is also up for grabs. Joe Ross, Eric Fetty, Austin
Yep.
Voth. Either of
Yep.
those guys I think could play a part, and Nationals might try a six-man rotation too.
Yeah.
Because like I said last week, I think we're going to see teams try the six-man rotation, especially if we do a full season this year, because it's not going to be easy for guys to just kind of get back into form on
Yep.
5 days rest. So I could see a six-man rotation playing part two, but the number five spot, I agree with you, I think is up for grabs. I would say Ross is probably the leader in that
Yeah.
in that spot right now, but Eric Fetty and Austin both could easily be in the mix on that as well. As far as the bullpen goes,
Hmm.
there's I'd say it's pretty set in stone. The only question I have is who's going to actually take on closer duties, because they've got Brad Hand, and Hand has experience. They got Daniel Hudson, and Hudson
Hmm.
has experience. Even Will Harris has experience there as well. So, um, bullpen wise, Brad Hand, Daniel Hudson, Will Harris are probably the three-headed monster on the
Hmm.
back end. Tanner Rainey, I think, is going
Yep.
to play a role. Wander Suero, Austin Voth, I think, will probably be a bullpen piece, if anything, if he doesn't get a rotation spot. I also have Ryan Harper, Kyle McGowan, and Kyle Finnegan as kind of rounds out the bullpen there.
Okay. Yeah, my bullpen looks relatively similar. I think their plan is to use. I believe they offered the closing role to Brad Hand when they signed him. I think that's kind of like his promised position, is closer, because I believe that's what kept the Mets from signing him, was he wanted a closer's job, and the Mets couldn't offer him that because of Edwin Diaz. So he went to the Nationals because they could offer him. I think he's going to be the closer. Um, I think Daniel Hudson, Will Harris, one of those two figures to be the eighth, one of those figures to be the seventh guy. Um, Wander Suaro, Austin Voth, non-roster invite Luis Avilan.
Mm.
He might potentially nail a job. I know didn't pitch much with the Yankees last season, and when he did pitch, he wasn't exactly good. I'll leave it at that. But he's another lefty to add to this bullpen if they need it. Um, I don't know that he's got a good chance at landing a job, especially with Harbor, Rainey, Voth, Suero. You know, they all those guys kind of fill roles. I think if he has a good spring training, I think it's very likely that he makes the major league roster. But if he would accept a AAA role to start the season out with the Nationals, I expect that more. But you know, he's always a guy that you kind of have to look out for. But yeah, my bullpen almost matches yours, blow for blow, and I it's not bad. You know, their bullpen used to be a big a big question mark. I know that Sean Doolittle's still a free agent. Maybe they want to bring him back. Um, I'm not sure if he's still set on being a closer or not. But I know that he was my one of my close friends. He's been a lifelong Nationals fan, and you know he loved the heck out of Sean Doolittle. So I think it would be kind of a fan service. I mean, you know, it would be a fan service to bring a guy back who was on that 19 roster. Um, and not only that, but I mean, he's still pretty good. I know he wasn't like crazy good last year, but he's been a good national, and he's been one of the bright spots out of a bullpen that more often than not has been less than ideal. So I think that would be I think Sean Doolittle on a 1 year contract. I'm sure it would be affordable money. I know they've spent some money and spent some prospects, but I think that if they could bring him back, then you could have Hand, Will Harris, uh, Doolittle, and then Hudson doesn't have to be quite as important of a guy. He can kind of shift back into the role he was in um, before, where if injuries occur, then he can step up. You know, he can get closer to being that closer. But if all goes well, then he's got less pressure on himself, and he can just kind of go out and do his thing when called upon. I think that if I could, if we had a segment for potential moves the team could or should make, I think that's one of them. I think the Nationals and Sean Doolittle, I don't know if there was anything they disliked about each other, but from the outside looking in, I think Doolittle would have been a great. I won't say addition because he was already there. He would have been a great bring back for this team.
Yeah, Doolittle really loved DC. I know he
Mm-hmm.
had a pretty heartfelt Instagram post a while back for the team. So yeah, I could see maybe if the Nationals want to do that. One thing, and I missed this when I was doing research, but Tanner Rainey is dealing with a forearm injury.
Mm.
So I think Avilan could be
Yeah,
more bigger possibility in that bullpen. And Avilan's only 31. I think
yeah.
he's definitely still got some gas in the tank. So I think and especially if maybe the team feels like McGowan and Finnegan might need some more time
Mm-hmm.
to develop, Avilan is definitely a good veteran option for them. And I think next year, I think 2021 could be a resurgence year for Avilan as well. So I forgot about him too. I forgot that he'd signed with the club, but I don't see
Yeah,
why he
yeah.
could. I don't see why he couldn't make the team going into opening day, unless if everyone just has a stellar spring
Mm-hmm.
training and he just kind of gets left, or he just kind of gets cut, unless if he's willing to take a minor league stint, like you said.
Yeah, I expected him to play a much bigger role in the Yankees last season. I thought for sure he was not only going to make the major league roster, but contribute quite a bit. And we just kind of had other guys that I guess we felt that deserved the role over him. But like I said, he wasn't. I know he wasn't terrible in his few appearances he made for us, but he wasn't like lights out either. So yeah, we'll see what he can do for the Nationals. If he can land a job. I can't believe he's only 31. I kind of figured that he would be 34, maybe 35 or something like that. But yeah, Luis Avilan. Jumping over to their prospects. Three guys that I want to keep an eye out for. Number one, for obvious reasons, Luis Garcia. Um, I just don't. Like I said earlier, I just don't know what it is about Luis Garcia, but I really like him. I think he's got a really bright future. I don't know that he's going to be some big, 30 home runs, 100 RBIs, 30 stolen bases, 300. I think he's going to be a good average hitter. I think he's going to hit over 300 every year. I could see him being, a good close to or over 400 on base percentage. I think we haven't seen a guy like that in a while. Kind of names that come to mind are like Michael Young with the Rangers, where he's not going to hit a bunch of home runs, he's not going to steal a bunch of bases, but he's going to hit 300. He's going to play good defense, and he's going to be a leader for that clubhouse.
He's going to get
Uh,
on base.
exactly, exactly. And in this analytics driven world that we're in now, it's getting on base is more and more of a priority for players. So I look for a guy like Luis Garcia to play a big role, if not this year, definitely in the future for this Nationals club. I also look for Cade Cavalli, who they drafted in the first round this season. Um, Last season now, but he's a big 6'4" righty. I think he's got good intangibles. I think he's got a good fastball, and I think that I could see him making a role here in the next 2 or 3 years, kind of making some noise. And another guy I want to look at is Seth Romero, who they took, and I believe they took him in 2017 with their first round pick. And Seth Romero figures to probably make his debut this season. And Seth Romero is a guy that definitely looking forward to see. I think he could be a big piece for that bullpen, potentially even a starter if they decide to go that route with him. But I look for those three guys to kind of be the big three that I'm looking for.
I agree with you on Romero. I think he's going to be a pretty big part of the Nationals' future, and maybe even make get an opportunity to be on the opening day roster. One guy I was looking at, the number 6 prospect, Tim Cate. Cate did really
Mm-hmm.
well in 2019, 3.07 ERA across 144 innings and 2 levels of minor league ball. He's a lefty. He's a starter. I think he could play a part this year if he has a good enough spring and gets good enough reps down. He's in advanced single A right now, but
Mm-hmm.
he has consistently played across 2 levels of minor league ball since 2018. So I could see him being someone to keep an eye out for. Another guy, Ben Bramer, their number 22
Yeah.
prospect. Bramer had a really solid. He had a pretty solid debut year last year.
Mm-hmm.
He made one start in 3 games, recorded 1.23 ERA. I think he's going to be another guy to keep an eye out on to potentially be on the opening day roster. And then they've got 2 bottom prospects, number 27 and number 28, Cole Freeman and Nick Banks. They're down in AAA right now. They're both 26. So you got to think they're going to get at least a spring training invite. And who knows, if they
Mm-hmm.
do really well in spring, they could be bench players on the team into opening day. I think Nick Banks is the one I'm really looking out for
Yeah.
right now. He's a 316, or I'm sorry, he's a 266 lifetime hitter in the minor leagues, but he has a 316 on base percentage. So this guy is really as consistent as they come, and I think he could be a good 4th, 5th outfield option for the Nationals. I know him being a lefty bat, the Nats are already
Mm-hmm.
kind of loaded on the left side, but if maybe they want to give Victor Robles a night off
Yeah.
and have like a power lefty line up against a right-handed pitcher, Banks could play a part in that. So I guess we'll see. I think Washington is kind of in an interesting spot because they have some prospects who are ready to come up, but
Mm-hmm.
they have a lot of prospects who are still in the lower levels of the minor leagues.
Yep.
So their future is bright, but it's not here. Is
Yeah.
is essentially what I'm saying. They still have some
Yep.
time to develop these guys, and not saying this team's going to be mediocre because I think they will be a threat while this group of guys develop. But I guess we'll just kind of see where things go.
Yeah.
But they do have a really bright future ahead of them for sure.
All right. Yeah, that's it's looking good. To jump over to their or kind of our projections for them this coming season. They're kind of the doors really open. There's a lot of possibilities for this team. I know that they've had really good pitching before, and it hasn't mattered. I've they've had not losing seasons, but I'll say subpar seasons because one side of the ball isn't playing really well. So I see them winning as many as 95 games.
Hmm.
And I see them losing, or sorry, I see them winning as little as like 82. Like
Hmm.
it could be anywhere from 82 on a bad side. Say Josh Bell's not what you thought he is. He didn't break out. John Lester gets hurt, or his age has caught up to him. Maybe Strasburg, Corbin, or Max. One of those three guys kind of have an injury that they're dealing with. Maybe the bullpen's not great. Um, Offense is subpar, so they could win as few as 82, and I think they could if everything goes right and John Lester turns their rotation into a big four. I think they could win as many as 95.
That's really optimistic.
Yeah, it is.
I actually 95. Now that I think about it, doesn't seem too far out of the question. But I think in my opinion, it's a little out of reach. But
Yeah, they're in a loaded division.
if everything goes right for them, though, it's I think it's absolutely possible they could win 95. I think their ceiling realistically is more around 85 wins, just because the Braves, Mets, and Phillies all seem to be a little better than them. So I think 80. I've got 85 as their ceiling. I
Mm,
have 75 as their floor. So I think
okay.
like they're going to be a competitive team. But
Hmm.
again, everything needs to go right for them if
Yeah,
they're going to actually be in the playoff hunt at the end of it all. But even if they get 75 wins with this group that they have, I don't
that's not
think it's
bad.
no,
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
not
bad at all.
terrible.
Considering what's in the division, it's not bad
Yeah.
at all. Ideally, that's not what they want, but
No, that's
um,
not what
I
anyone wants.
I think this team is gonna be decent in 2021, and I think it will set the future up for them when these guys are ready to come up to
Hmm.
dominate in that competitive division.
Yeah, agreed 100%. Yeah, so there you go. There's the Nationals for you. Some good offseason acquisitions, some good pitching potential, a great rotation that could be either really great or just great. Um, some offensive potential and some good prospects. The future may not be here, as we said, for Nationals fans, but the future's close. Just gotta. I know that if anyone's good at hanging in there, it's Nationals fans. So even going back to their Montreal days.
Want to give one quick note.
Yep.
Actually, this broke while we were recording.
Oh
Happy
boy.
retirement to Dustin Pedroia. He is
What?
he has officially
Oh
announced his retirement.
man.
Yeah, I wish that he could have gone out on a better note, but
Hmm.
he still put up a heck of a career.
Yeah.
So we want to wish him the best as he goes on to his next chapter, and hopefully those knees will start to be a little friendlier to him now that he's going to be
Yeah.
taking some downtime.
Man, he was like I know they had Ortiz and I know they had at that time like Beckett and Lester, but man, he was like the face. Like he was their big homegrown guy.
He was.
Um, he was the leader of that clubhouse. An MVP winner, two-time World Series winner, three technically if you count him for 2018.
He did contribute technically that
Did
year,
he?
so yeah,
Okay.
so he
I
he
can't
got a
remember
ring.
if I can't remember if he had played any that year or not. Man, I thought for sure that he was going to give it one more go. I know I read a report. I think it was either last year or the year before that he had like very little fluid in his knees, so like his bones were like rubbing together and like hurting each other.
Yeah,
So I'm not a doctor. I'm not a physician either, so I don't know what the hell I'm talking about as far as that goes. But yeah, happy retirement, Dustin Pedroia. If by some chance you hear this, coming from a Yankees fan, it was great watching you play. I loved the way you did. And I look forward to seeing what you have in the future.
He played the game the right way.
He did.
He was very
He
fun to
did.
watch over the years.
He did.
Um,
I hated to love him, but I did. I loved him. He was awesome. All right, guys. That's gonna do it for us here. A little bit of everything today. A little bit of anger, a little bit of happiness, and a somber note to end on. But we'll be back tomorrow. So you got that to look forward to.
Be sure to follow us on our social media pages. YouTube channel is Dugout Talk,
Mm-hmm.
Twitter handle at Dugout Talk 1,
Yep.
and Facebook page is Dugout Talk. I think we're going to try to change the Facebook username though, so then we don't get some confusion because it sounds like there's a lot of Dugout Talk pages on Facebook. We'll get that
Yeah,
up.
it's not bad. There's like there's a Facebook page called Dugout Talk, but there's a space between Doug and Out, and I believe it's about sports in Botswana.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a Facebook page for that. I think if you search at Real Dugout Talk on Facebook, it should bring you right to us. I'll double check that and let you guys know on social media. But from the looks of it, we might be okay going forward with it. But I'll do some more research, and obviously I'll be in touch with you about that.
Cool. So Facebook page, if you can't find us, use the username at Real Dugout Talk. That
Mm-hmm.
should be
I'm pretty sure that you can do that when you just like go into your search bar. You should just be able to search at Real Dugout Talk, and it should bring you right to us.
fantastic. Well, again, thank you guys for listening to us. We're going to break down the New York Mets tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
What an exciting offseason it's been for them. Should be a fun show to get to you. So if you know any Nationals fans, you know any other baseball fans looking for a podcast, share this with them. Again, we hope you enjoyed your time with us. And with that said, I'm Steven Gossman.
As always, I'm Cameron Langle.
Signing off. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you guys. Have fun.